What is going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Bland back in the building. Another episode of the Shop Podcast. Glad to see everybody in chat already. Saw things filling up a bit here. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Another awesome, amazing evening here at the Shop Podcast. This is where you get all your gaming weekend news at. We compile everything here. We just sit here and we talk about it and you guys the facts and our opinions and just what we got to say. But appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Hope to see some familiar faces here in chat. And once again, retweet the link. Let everybody know Shop Podcast is live. This is where you're going to get all that good gaming news. So shout out to everybody watching live. Hit the like button if you're not subscribed. Please do that as well. So we do have a guest, and we'll start with him. Shout out to Blue in chat. No frauds, right? We'll talk about that a little bit later off camera. Blue, shout out to Ray Oid as well. Appreciate you as well. We'll start with our guest here, man. I don't really need to do much introduction. You've been on the show a couple times. A great friend of ours here at the Shop Podcast. The chat always loves when we have you on the show, brother. Big things going on. You and Everborn Gaming Circle, but you'll get into all of that, bro. Let everybody know what you got going on with you.
Good evening, all. Yes, thank you so much, BTK, for the invite once again. It's always great being invited to on your show. It's always fun hanging out with the gentlemen I listen to most days of my week. Y'all carry me through my work day, so I always appreciate being able to talk to y'all when I have the opportunity to do so. So yes, yeah, the Gaming Circle podcast, having some fun. Getting some folks on this weekend. I kind of cheated. One of my best friends, one of my oldest friends, happens to also be like a game developer who's been in the gaming industry for quite
Oh
some time.
wow! So you had to pull some strings, huh?
So yeah, I was kind of like, come on now, Machado, how about you come on here and have a quick conversation with us? So he was on here for a little while. We had a great conversation. He's worked in a bunch of places. Take your pick, your Epic and Ubisoft and a bunch of other places. So it was
Awesome.
always very interesting to have cool conversations with him. So yeah, it's just trying to get as many interesting people on as I can, and enjoy the conversation with the community. So I appreciate being sending the bat signal out for me,
Oh,
and
always, brother.
I'm always here. I appreciate y'all.
Always. Shout out to you. Shout out to Everborn as well. Once again, guys, the Gaming Circle Podcast. That's where it's at. Please go check the socials down in the description below. You guys know what to do here. I don't need to tell you guys. You're all family, right? This is what we do. We support each other. We support the guests here at the Shop Podcast. Shout out Zinc. Shout out Fifth Horseman. Appreciate you, bro, for hanging out with us. Once again, retweet that link. Let everybody know we're live, man. We got a packed show. Once again, we're going to let you guys take over the show. We're doing this every week. This is like a normal thing now. We're going to let you guys take over the last quarter, last half, whatever we decided to show. Want to make this thing a bit more interactive, get you guys involved. So don't forget, preload those questions so you can just drop them in chat when we get to that point, and then we'll dive into those. But let me go ahead and get to my two men here, my two right-hand men, my guys. We'll go ahead and go with you first, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, man. How you been this week, brother?
Been pretty good. Been having fun on Twitter, and didn't fall for any of the April Fool's stuff yesterday, but doing good and racing around a lot and taking pictures and whatnot. But so glad to be here with you guys. Glad we got Asante on here as well, and man, we got some interesting stuff to discuss. So let's get to it.
Let's get to it. But before we do that, last but not least, the battery pack of the show. You know what we call him. I might have to change the name. I got to find a new name for you, Pong. It was Pong Harvey. You've tapered the shows a little bit, right? Lately. But yeah.
Look, I gave it to you behind the scenes. Okay. I have informed everybody on all the shows that I've appeared on. I am now known as Genghis Pong. And I want to be addressed as such.
Wow.
Okay,
going forward. Guys, I'm sorry about this. All right, I do apologize. I'll explain later on Twitter. It's very complicated. Go ahead.
It's not complicated, sir. I am in the process of completing my world domination plans. I'm going to unify the entire world underneath my flag, and we're going to live happily ever after. Of course, I'm speaking of Crusader Kings 3, which I am enthralled by right now, along with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. But Crusader Kings 3 is better than I ever expected it to be. Shout out to Paradox again for doing what they do to bring these types of games to consoles. They've been doing it for a while. They're one of the few out there. They are slowly but surely working their way up my list of favorite publishers. They're trying for that top spot, which of course is held by Bethesda, which probably will not be topped. However, they are doing their damnedest to get there because they are putting out quality, nonstop quality strategy games, grand strategy games, and making them work on the consoles. Absolutely blown away by what they've done with Crusader Kings 3. This is just it's a special game for those of us that like this style. There's so much to this game. It's unbelievable. And I'm having a freaking fantastic time. And word leaked out that Paradox might be bringing the Shadowrun trilogy, which was done by the original creator, over on the PC, which is coming to Switch. Little word leaked out this week, a little screenshot that they might be bringing it to Xbox and PlayStation as well. I love Paradox. Thinking about a tattoo. Anyways, we got a lot to talk about. It's been a fantastic week, a long week, but I'm talking games. I'm talking with this community. I'm talking with my brothers here, including Kay Asante. Great to have you back, sir. Let's have a wonderful show. Let's get down to business.
Now let's get into it. We got a whole lot to talk about. Appreciate you, Pong. Once again, man, I love the fact that Pong's happy. Like, that makes me so happy. We'll get into this a little bit later, but we got so much to talk about. Shout out to Stanley. Shout out to OCD. Shout out to everybody. Shonsu, Mod of the Year here every single week, man. Rocking out, keeping the chat, maintaining everything, making sure everybody's good. So appreciate you guys once again.
Look at that. Stanley Francois comes in here and he knows how to address. See,
what's happening, Lord have Kings. Mercy.
He obviously knew. He obviously had heard of my conquest and he came in here appropriately with the king. See, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Stanley. I appreciate you.
Oh, this is getting out of hand. I don't know what we're gonna do about this, Asante.
hey, I mean, I'm all for it. Genghis Pong, man, I'm there. Let's go.
Let's go.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you. See,
I think that is one of the greatest monikers I've ever heard. This is amazing.
Awesome, man. But shout out to you. Shout out to Paradox. This is ridiculous. Anyway, we'll get into it, guys. We got so much to talk about. Shout out to Lord Master Jasper, man. Appreciate you guys hanging out, man. Retweet the link. Let everybody know we live. We have a lot of fun in here on Saturday. So if you want to have fun talking video games, it's a very, very comfortable place to come. Hang out with us. Retweet that link. Subscribe if you have not hit the notification bell. But we diving in, man. We talking poll of the week. Something that is very, very, very unique to the Shop Podcast. You're not going to get poll of the week anywhere else. So follow me on Twitter. That's where you'll see it every single Monday. We talk about it on Saturday. So poll of the week this week, something, more movie related, less video game related, but they, same medium. So they tie together. So with the Halo TV series debuting recently, which of these Xbox IPs should be the next one to get their own movie and or TV show? So the options were Gears, Hellblade, Perfect Dark, or Starfield. Okay, so we're going to start with you on this one, Asante. So cold feet, bro. So you diving in this thing head first. All right, so the poll lopsided as hell. With Gears won 64%, just to kind of give you a reference point. So where are you at on those options? Or did you have something else that was not on the list?
I actually voted on this one because whenever you do your polls, I vote, and I voted, and mine was for Gears because that feels like it's the next on the block.
I think some people argue it should have been first.
Yes, I agree. I think Gears lended itself while Halo was in its development hell. No thanks to me and my character. Shout out to that.
I was just gonna say you're trying to put yourself out of a job here. You wouldn't be working right now without that.
They could have been building out a Gears universe, not just specifically, the characters you see on TV, but
didn't Bautista even vouch for himself doing it?
Exactly. Hasn't he gone so far as to the fact that they've actually even retrofitted him into the latest version, right?
Yeah.
There's a DLC version where it's just him as Dom. As Dom, as their dad. But needless to say, I'm just saying, it lends itself well, and beyond just the characters themselves, the world itself lends itself, and the lore lends itself pretty well to a TV show of some kind, right? So, I think it should be Gears. I'm surprised Gears haven't broke ground on that yet. It's very odd to me.
Yeah, it seems like the obvious choice, right? I mean, I wasn't surprised when I put this together. I was not surprised to see the Gears because it felt like we were going to get that anyway. It just seemed like it was a natural progression where things were going. You had people vying to people were throwing themselves in Microsoft hey, I'll do it. I'll be in the.
I actually think that Halo's too ambitious. That's the first one you're doing. That's a bit ambitious, and I mean, history has shown
You feel
Them
like
trying to
Pong?
be ambitious hasn't worked well.
Do you
Gears
feel like
probably would have
Gears
been
would
a
have been
good
more
lead in.
grounded?
Yes, I think that would have been a better lead in,
Well, I think the world is easy. The world of Gears is easier to like,
to render.
flesh out, to render out,
Yes. Yes.
than something like Halo was damn near Star
Exactly.
Wars size.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. Yeah. So, I mean, not to say I dislike what they've done here with Halo. I think it's great. Even though they're going in different paths, I'm there for it. But yeah, I completely agree with the populace on this one. It should definitely be Gears, and I hope they're listening.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll definitely see. Chat. Let us know once again. Poll of the week options. Let us know, chat. Which one of those options did you guys choose? And I'm gonna repeat it here at Gears, which was the overwhelming favorite: Hellblade, Perfect Dark, or Starfield. Now, all of those, if we're keeping it honest, I try and make these a bit difficult. I try not to make them like overly difficult, but I want to make people think. When I put up the poll, so I thought there'd be a bit more balance, but I figured Gears would definitely win just because, like I said, seems like the natural progression. But one thing I do want to ask you before I move on to one of my compadres here, Asante, is that do you think that because at one point it seemed obvious to make a Gears, now it seems less obvious, right? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Gears is less popular than it used to be.
It's
But
waned in its
it's
popularity.
weaned in its popularity. Now
Although with the semi, if you call it semi success of Halo so far, to the point where they've confidently like greenlit a second season, right? And we know how long it took for them to get to production to where we are now. It took many years, right?
oh yeah, oh
The
yeah.
and we also know that the coalition is nowhere busy with the next iteration of the Gears franchise. There might even be a small game in between that release, right? We know they're kind of putting Gears to rest a little. There's some coordination that could be done that brings out a show that ties in with a new reboot of the Gears world, if you will. It's a
So
possibility.
would you prefer a show or a movie?
I would prefer a show because
Okay.
and the reason why is someone once said that to me, and I always thought that was it's a very apt thought process that you go through. A movie is a one shot, one kill. Either you hit it or you don't, and if you don't, you'll never see it again. A TV show, you get 9 hours broken up, thought provoking. Allow you to tell your speak your whole vision. Even if you don't hit it 100%, if it's enough to entice folks, you might get another shot at a second season, as Halo is now, right? If we were talking Halo as a movie, it'd be all about the first week's numbers, right? And most
Yes.
likely the Batman would have crushed it by now, right? So will we get another one? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. I appreciate that it's a show. It allows folks to develop more, gets them more invested, and gives you a possibility of turning a second season around. So I hope it's a television show.
Okay. No, once again, it's the thought process is where I'm at with this, and that's
Yeah.
why I asked the additional question on that.
So I want to know what is the percentage of those who say Starfield, and we need to have a conversation with them.
No,
Nobody
Pong
knows
is going to
anything
answer that
about
question for you
Starfield.
right now. Pong is going to answer that question. He's going to no
No
Pong.
one knows anything
No,
about
no, no,
Starfield
Pong, no,
right
no,
now.
no, 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 no. You don't understand how this works. Pong is going to eloquently answer that question for you as soon as he gets the opportunity.
Please, I'm
So
I'm looking forward to an
you
explanation.
don't understand how this works. You know what I'm saying? So you lucky I didn't throw Forza in here. So if I would have figured out we'd had a Cars version of Forza, Pixar could make a Forza a movie. But anyway, go ahead, Fuzz. Since we're talking about it, but go ahead, Fuzz. What
No,
option did you choose?
actually, and this is not to take Pong's thunder on this one. I picked Starfield, and here's
Oh
why.
wow,
What?
wow! I didn't
Here's
expect.
why.
Listen, Cat, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect.
All right, let's look at the division.
Uh-huh.
Big fan of the division. Remember those little short films that they did prior to the game even really being
Oh yeah,
released?
yeah, yeah. Great short films. I remember them. Yeah.
Those help lead into the actual lore of the game, and I actually wanted more of those to come after the game, and we've been waiting for this movie for like the past 5 or 6 years now. I don't know if
Hmm.
if that's still a thing or not, but it would be awesome if they actually made that division movie. But I think with
See, I,
Starfield,
I
you don't
did I
have to
didn't know
have.
that's where you were gonna go with it there, Fuzzy.
Yeah.
I am now my mind is now changed. So as a marketing tool, they should release it ahead of time to
Yeah,
entice
because
folks to get into the game. Interesting
yeah,
take.
because
I'm sorry.
that way you
Continue.
have this new sci-fi space exploration, series that you can actually participate on your console in. Not in the actual show itself, but like basically either follow that same timeline or make your own timeline within that same universe. But the lore, as far as the different factions and things like that, you can
Someone
have
hired this
established in
retired
that.
man. He has some
Dude,
good
listen,
ideas. That's
listen.
cool.
I don't know if you. And this is me patting Fuzz on the back because he's not gonna do it himself. I promise you. So super humble guy, love him to death, but he's not gonna do this. Go check out Fuzz write up on Forza. Okay, I know it's off
Oh yeah,
topic.
I read that this
Please,
afternoon. Really
please go
cool.
check.
Really
Oh man,
cool.
such great ideas. Please turn
Yeah.
10. If anybody's watching, turn 10 playground. Please go check that out. I made sure I asked you guys. You have no excuse. Please check your Twitter. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, great ideas. But go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No, but
Fuzz.
that was my main thought process for picking Starfield, because what better way to introduce people into the lore or the factions and things that they've just lightly touched on in these like into the Starfield verse type of deals that they've done, which I like those themselves, just giving us hints of what the game is. But having that series released next as kind of like an intro to it would be an awesome thing, I think. But I don't want to take any more of Pong's time frame.
No,
Definitely
no,
just
no,
my
you're
two
not.
cents.
Continue on, Fuzz. Don't worry about it. You're
No,
not.
but that was just my thinking behind it. Like I would love to see something along those lines. Me being a big Star
Kind
Trek
of what they
fan
did with
and Star
Halo,
Wars fan,
right?
more Trek than Star Wars, but yeah, I would love to see
They,
another sci-fi space space show series movie, what have you. I'm all for it. Heck, make a Mass Effect movie if possible. But yeah, that I would totally want to see them do that.
yeah. So, and the thing here, though, right? Traditionally, and we're gonna get to Pong on this. All right. So, the thing is the video game hump, the video game barrier. It's so hard to translate the game into a like different medium. Like that's the big barrier, right? Like
Mhm.
Asante, that's the big hump, right? It's just getting
Hmm.
over that barrier, trying to translate a video game, which is probably the most one of the most interactive forms of entertainment into like something that's less interactive, right? You
Yep.
just
100%.
watch rather than play and participate in. So that's
Yep.
super. It's like going from 2D to 3D or 3D to 2D, however you want to, use the
Hmm.
analogy. But
And usually they have a huge fan base that wants it a
yep,
specific kind of way,
yep,
and obviously the new medium won't be able to translate that way,
yep.
and you'll have a bunch of pissed off fans. It's a complex situation.
It
Yeah.
is a slippery slope. That's why very few games are able to do it or have done it over time. But I do think like Gears is a prime candidate. Starfield, I could definitely see. I didn't. Your idea, Fuss, is a bit different. I didn't see that, coming.
Hmm.
I'm thinking standalone TV show, full marketing type stuff. But this kind of working hand in hand with the game is kind of interesting, and I want to see where Pong's going with this. Go ahead, Pong. So you, bro.
Yeah, no. If it wasn't for the fact that Starfield was releasing this year, I might go with Fuzzy's route, but I didn't. The fact is, I see a future where that happens if Microsoft makes a decision to jump into entertainment full time, and we see more crossover between, or I should say, consolidation in the entertainment industry as a whole. I mean, I'm talking about movies, TVs, books, and video games, and that consolidation starts to happen where companies start owning IP like that, and they have their own production houses for games and TV. Of course, I would love to see what Fuzzy just brought up. It is a great idea, for sure. It's just that timing wise, obviously, we're too far, and Gears has been deserving for too long. When I thought about this question and I looked at it, and first I kind of thought Fuzzy's way, but then I went back to Gears again, and how long that has not happened is criminal. Almost to the point of the Halo series not happening. Obviously, Halo's been around for longer, so Halo does, obviously edge that one out. But Gears at its peak, and it's no longer at its peak. However, it is still extremely popular. Shout out to Others Inc. for pointing that out in the chat. Of course, it's still extremely popular. It is deserving to be on the big screen, whether that's TV, whether that's movie, whatever the deal is. Now, the only problem I have is where they take it. And I want them to go back, as I stated many, many times, to the original trilogy. That version of Gears is by far, my opinion, of course, by far the best version of Gears. And what could be done on the TV screen if done right, if not half baked, if not trying to change things to make it more friendly for families or whatever the case may be. They take Gears at its hardcore. You go out and make an Aliens type, action packed, gruesome, dark TV series or movie, you will have a hit on your hands. And another reason why is partly from what Fuzzy was just saying. We know Gears is on a break right now. We know that the coalition is going to be getting back to it at some point. We also know that there's an opportunity for them to go back and remaster the trilogy. Okay, and we talked about that. The Marcus Phoenix trilogy was, the Marcus Phoenix collection was trending last year by the Xbox community when everybody came up with that idea that should get the Master Chief collection redo. And the big deal is that they could drive that hype again for that original trilogy. Not that it needs it, but it would just increase it even more by having a TV series launch with it or just prior to it and get everybody back in love with those characters, Marcus, Dom, Coltrane, etc., and bring back and remind people of how great those original stories were, because the Gears lore, again, we talk about the lore behind some of the stuff. Some video games don't have lore behind them, but some of these big franchises, your Halos and these kinds of things, and Gears is one of those that has so much lore already written that you can bring from, especially during that time period, that it'd be very easy for them to create a TV series out of it. And I think it needs to be explored. I want it to be explored because that's something I would want to watch on the big screen. As far as Starfield goes, yeah, definitely. Of course, I'd love to see a Starfield, but I want to see the Elder Scrolls TV series come out that's been rumored. I want to see the Fallout come out that's been rumored. And then we'll have Starfield, and Starfield might be the next big one that does get that treatment down the road as the years go by, if it's on that same level, which obviously I expect it to be, but we will see. Obviously, nothing's guaranteed in this world. So, but Gears for me is deserving. Gears of War should be done, if for no other reason than to bring back the excitement for the original trilogy and how great it was, and then expand on it a little bit more. It's just it is fantastic sci-fi action. It's everything that you want out of something that you're going to turn into the big screen, and I think it would work out perfectly.
Awesome.
If done right.
No, absolutely. And that, I guess that's the key thing. Obviously, how they translate over has so much to do. You talk about getting the right cast of actors together, the right director, pairing with the right producer, finding the right, like, so many components, and that's why this is so difficult. But I'd love to see.
And you can't skimp these days either, PTK.
No,
sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but you can't skimp. It's not the old days where you could put out some B kind of stuff and be okay with it just because we weren't getting a lot of it. Nowadays, with Netflix and what they've done with The Witcher 3 or The Witcher and stuff, you have to go big budget. You have to actually put some money into it to make it look right. Obviously, it sounds like Halo for the most part. They've done that, but you would need to do that with Gears too. You couldn't just put something out there to put something out there.
No, absolutely. And to be honest with you, due to social media, you're gonna know right away if the shit's whack. You're gonna know right away, like they're gonna tell you right away if it's no good. So they would have to get it right. So much to take into account there. But let's move on. Great opening topic. Once again, shout out to everybody watching us live. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Please support. You guys are amazing. You guys show up here. We have so much fun. Everything that we're talking about is always in the chat as well too. So appreciate you guys. So we are talking a little bit of PlayStation Plus next, right? So this is the big, rumor that's been lingering that we're going to get some news on this, some details about what these tiers actually are and what's in them and the pricing and all these different details we're supposed to get. So we did definitely get that news this week. So very, very interesting to see the reaction from the community, right? So you know what type of podcast is. We know what type of podcast this is. We try and be as fair as possible across the board, right? And I did figure that there's going to be some uncomfortable conversations being had once this information and these details did drop. But I want to get you guys initial reaction. Once again, chat, let us know what you guys think about this topic as well regarding PlayStation Plus and all the new information that we got. So before I let you run with this, Asante, before I pass the baton off, right, I'm going to go over the 3 tiers. So we got PlayStation Plus Essential, all right? I believe that's $9.99 a month US, okay? But we'll get into the details. I just kind of want to go over the pricing and the tiers. Got PlayStation Plus Extra, that's $14.99. Then we got PlayStation Plus Premium, which I believe is $17.99 a month. Okay, this all US, by the way. So we'll let you dive into this, Asante. What was your initial
Hmm.
reaction after seeing the full official announcement with the details?
So to be absolutely positively honest with y'all, I was hugely disappointed, and for a very selfish reason. I
Okay.
want to live in that, to me, utopian world where I have two subscription services and they take care of all my gaming needs for the most part. That's where I want to live. Like, I enjoy living in that world. At least on the Xbox side, I enjoy that. Doesn't mean I don't buy games. I'm one who, before the pandemic struck, used to be. I used to have the original Movie Pass, $10 a month, watch as many movies as you want.
Yeah.
Right. I eventually migrated to AMC Stubs A List, $20 a month, watch 3 movies a week. I enjoy doing that, so that when I walk into the movie theater, buying the popcorn doesn't hurt because I already have the ticket for free, right?
Yeah.
And I hope you see where that analogy is going
Yeah, no,
in the
absolutely.
sense of gaming, you
Yeah.
know. And unfortunately, this is not that for me. So for me personally, it was a bit disappointing. I do hear that the ground hasn't settled on all this. Yes, they've announced it, but they keep kind of hedging their bets, saying there's more to come, there's more to announce sooner or later. So maybe they're weighing their options, and they're listening to what the public is saying about
So
it and seeing
let
about
me
revising
let me
things.
throw a
Go ahead.
monkey wrench in here because this may change your
Mm-hmm.
conversation just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, just to kind of get this out the way, I thought it was very uncreative considering the resources that they have. I
I
thought
agree
it
with
was
you.
very, very, very safe, even to the point to where this was
Mm-hmm.
just like, let's just do this. Like, we don't even have any plans for this, but let's
Mm-hmm.
just do this because we feel like we need to get in a space before that
Yeah.
space with that gap becomes too large. Let's go ahead and get in this space real quick. Just get our foot in the door, kind of thing. Because I mean, Fuzz, we talked about this, right?
Mhm.
Pong, we talked about this. We had
Yeah.
all type of creative ideas. I'm thinking, like, oh, this is gonna be like they're gonna do some very creative shit. Now, once you did say the ground's not quite settled on
It's
all of
not
this,
quite settled, right? So
so
so there's still a chance, but you're absolutely right. There's just
I'm
so
thinking
much left on
Crunchyroll
the cutting
stuff.
room for exactly.
I'm thinking like
Funimation,
Funimation
you,
stuff, like
can be
with a
bundled
premium
in.
subscription. Yeah, like that type.
Mr. Boomstick was like, "Hey, you know what? How about if you're anywhere part of the subscription tiers, we waive your $10 asshole tax. We'll call it." Mr. Everborn Saga has coined that term that PlayStation inflicts on every person buying a PS5 game. All of a sudden, you're a subscriber. You don't have to pay that. That sounds like value. Nobody added. No, that has not been spoken about. How about, hey, you've heard our initiative. We acquired Nixus. We're doing our best to put out there, put out some games on our PC side. Me myself, I've double dipped on God of War. I've also double dipped on Horizon Zero Dawn. How about, you know, we'll be building a launcher for Windows for PC, and premium tier subscribers can get access to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, none
Yeah,
of that was offered, and something that Everborn said, and I will give him all the credit for it. And I've thought about it for a while, and he's absolutely right. There's two revelations to this thing. Thing number one is hidden in the fine print, and somebody please prove me wrong here, is the fact that if you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber today, you continue gaining access to PlayStation Plus as you know it today, right? And if you pay attention to the essentials description of it, it is 2 games downloaded bi-weekly, two monthly games, exclusive downloads, discounts, cloud saves, multiplayer access, right? That's what
yeah.
they keep saying. What is missing from that? The PlayStation Plus collection. That's what's missing from that. So what they're doing is they're changing PlayStation Plus, calling it PlayStation Plus Essentials, and taking away the PlayStation Plus collection. So those games we used to be able to have access to, the big, the 30 some odd games, they won't be here when you sign up as a new PlayStation Plus Essentials
On that
subscriber.
bottom tier, right?
Yes. Now, we who have it already will continue to have it because we're grandfathered in. But when we renew as presumably Essentials customer, we also will lose access to the PlayStation Plus collection. They've lifted that Plus collection and brought it to Extra.
Hmm.
You see, and people aren't seeing that in the fine print. It's a little bit, that's right. That's part one. And part two of that makes me go, is people are comparing this to Game Pass, which, some say you should compare, some say you shouldn't compare. But even if you were to compare, because obviously it is a direct competitor in our wallets, right? Can you really compare the two top tiers? Because one top tier, which costs more, still only gives you access on one platform. Whereas the other platform, which costs less at the highest tiers, gives you access on phone, on tablets, on almost anywhere with cloud access, right? So a like for like comparison would be that one platform to one platform, which is 18 of their dollars to 99 to $9 or 99 cents, well, $10 of the Xbox's version, because Game Pass Ultimate has way more offerings on way more platforms than Premium does on the PlayStation side. So it's just weird little juxtaposing that's just it's been
Yeah,
kind of I'm just hoping that ultimately the consternation and the communication and all the conversation in the community ultimately gets them to revise some things,
yeah,
because I want to live in that two subscription world. That's where I want to be, and this is not that,
got
in
it.
my humble
And
opinion.
and to be fair, once again, this is your opinion, right? So I
Yes,
mean, I
yes.
get where we're just
Yeah.
there's some people that may
And
chop that up a
and
bit, but
for the record, I'm a proud PS5 owner. I have a PS4 Pro. I have a PS3 that I love. I have the fat PS3s that still can do back compat from a hardware perspective. I have all of the PlayStations. I'm a proud PlayStation owner. I want to live in that double world where all my Xbox needs are covered by this subscription. All my PlayStation, I have PlayStation Plus now. I just want it to be worth more. And right now, to me, based on what's been shown here, I don't see that value, unfortunately.
and
You've
to
actually
give
lost some.
yeah, no, they've moved some things around. It's definitely the you playing cups in the park or with the cards with the money underneath it,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
swapping out cups and stuff. So Sony's
Yeah.
a bit it's
And
a
by
bit
and large, the public has not seen that they moved that PlayStation Plus collection cup out of your way. You just didn't see it. Like
yeah.
people
Yeah.
are like, huh? It's still there, right?
Being
No,
yeah,
it's
so
not.
there's some things here that are a bit suspect. Obviously, once again, I think it's a solid start. I don't think it's too much, right? I think it's
Mm.
fairly simple enough. There are some very shady, not shady, shaky things about the way they're doing it, but I think it's a decent start. I still don't compare it as a 1-to-1. I just can't see that as of yet. Just because they don't they still have a lot of like a lot of work to do. So we'll get into this with you, Fuzz, before we dive into this with Pong. So once again, chat, let us know how you guys feel about this PlayStation Plus information coming out, and what your initial reaction was. But go ahead, Fuzz. Where are you at on this? We've talked about this.
Mhm.
Listen, I thought I just knew. Okay, Sony's going to find a way to do something very creative with this, and it's
Mhm.
going to be like, oh, that could work. And I'm not saying this can't work, but I thought it definitely would be more of a maybe I'm looking just for the pop. I don't know. I just thought with the services that they have, they
Mhm.
do something a bit creative while trying to, discern, distinguish themselves from Game Pass.
Well, Kiyosaki nailed a lot of the key points that makes this deal so disappointing. I mean, I'm also a PS5 owner, and I like the PlayStation Plus collection thing that we have as a PS5 owner. It's basically all their greatest hits or 20 of their greatest hits that pretty much you have access to as long as you're subscribed, which goes away, like he said, once that subscription expires. So it's no longer in the what I'm now paying for the equivalent of PS Essential, but they're taking that feature and moving it up to PS Extra. So that itself sucks. I like the idea, like what Mr. Boomstick was saying, where I don't necessarily call it the asshole tax. I just call it the next gen tax in general, because it,
Uh-huh.
it it only affects like the PS5 as far as the controller upgrades or the difference between games when they're available on both consoles. And it was wonderful what they did with the free upgrade for Horizon Forbidden West. I would be willing to subscribe if they had something like that where it's like a waiver. Oh, you get almost like a 10% discount or a $10 discount on new game purchases by being subscribed. I would definitely subscribe just for that alone. But there's just so many things that they could have done. We've already hinted at the Crunchyroll and Funimation stuff. It's like, what are you guys doing with these subscriptions? I understand there are people subscribed to those, but why not just roll it into this so that way you have different key features that make your subscription above and
Exactly.
beyond worthwhile comparably. It oh man, it is sad that they're not really doing anything with PlayStation PC because they announced that like what a year ago, and you have Next or Nixus for helping them with a lot of that porting process. I've double dipped on so many Xbox games and or games between PlayStation and Xbox or my Xbox and PC, and would be doing the same thing as far as for if they had a tier that did the same thing as like Game Pass Ultimate, where you have access to like their PC ports, or maybe you have to be subscribed to get earlier access. Oh, you want to be day and date on PC? Well, you have to be subscribed here to be able to have access to it, or something along those lines. Anything to kind of entice more than what your current base is at currently, and just basically rolling them into this new program, which I'm pretty sure they're going to be like, oh, in like 6 months or less, they're going to be like, oh, well, we already have 40 million subscribers, because you just took your PS Plus subscribers and changed the wording. But
So
it's disappointing.
I want to play devil's advocate here,
Yes.
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off first.
No,
But
go
are
ahead.
we we're a bit well are we're so our perspective, all of our perspective is a bit skewed. Can we admit that, right? Like
Yeah,
I
we're
can
spoiled
we
with
we're
Game Pass.
exactly. So there's a blueprint, Asante. Can we admit that
Oh
a
yeah,
little bit?
for sure. I mean, I will be the first to tell you that I have the benefit of being able to play on anything that I want to play, and because of that, that may skew my perspective a bit. Yes, 100%, 100%.
Okay, so now we're all okay with that. So my thing is that I never necessarily wanted this to be a one-to-one of Game Pass anyway to begin with,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because there's no use for me to have two of the same thing,
Yep.
right?
Actually, you know what? To your point, and I don't mean to cut you off. To your
Yeah,
point,
no, you're good.
when I tested out Amazon Luna, and that was a reason why I wasn't a big fan of Luna, because at the time, and this was some time ago when they first started, at that time they offered it to subscribers, Amazon Prime subscribers, at a certain discount for X amount of days, and it seemed that you could their library almost identical to Game Pass's library, minus some of the key acquisitions that Microsoft has made themselves, or some of the key deals they made. But like their games were almost one to one, and it was kind of useless to me from a third party perspective, because it's like
Yeah,
if they both offer the same thing, what's the point of it? You're
exactly.
absolutely right. You want different flavors from your different tiers. That's why I want to live in that two platform future, because then they both can fulfill what the other can't, and fill me with
Exactly.
the gaming hole, as it were.
I want everything. This is
That's
what we're
right.
trying to say. We're not haters. We want it all, baby. We want
That's
it all.
right.
I want the whole pie. Give it to me all. So I need Sony to do something a little bit different. And they have other services. They have other options that can distinguish this
Mhm.
service. And once again, to be fair to, because Asante, you just said it, the ground's not quite settled in on this yet. So there may be some changes coming up. But go ahead, Fuzz. I just kind of wanted to divert from that a
Yeah.
little. Yeah.
No, I think Game Pass has spoiled my view a bit, primarily because the big thing, and I've also adjusted my buying habits. It's not that I'm not buying; I'm timing my purchases accordingly. So something I have a strong gut feeling, because I've kind of looked at how things work with getting games into Game Pass and so forth. A game that I don't expect to go into Game Pass that I kind of want to play now, and it's not going to possibly go in for 6 months or more. That one I'm buying, day one. It's a game I want. I'm going to play it when it comes out. If it's a game that I think might make it to Game Pass on day one, I'm not buying it on day one. I'm buying it, sometimes 30 days later, when there's a little bit deeper discount than the initial 10% or something along those lines. The great thing about that is you wind up getting to play the game at the same time everybody else does at launch, without having to pay the full price, because you get the discounts on the back end. So it's not like you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs or just playing, the rest of your back catalog, which would probably be more advantageous. But you're playing the game currently, and then you can pay the regular price, because a lot of games I'd rather own just in case if it does leave, or let's just say a year from now I don't want to be subscribed because they do something completely ridiculous or whatever the case is. I want to at least have the game, but at a price that I feel is reasonable. And with me, the $70 for some games, like perfect example, Gran Turismo. Yeah, I bought the $90 one, but it's like there are certain games. It's like I really don't want to spend $70 on Returnal. I didn't want to spend $70 on Ratchet and Clank, and I wound up waiting until there was a decent sale on those. So having it where if PS Plus had something along those lines to kind of negate either that $10 bump in price, where a lot of these times, like if you look at what was it, Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, I bought both of those as the deluxe editions because with the discount that they were offering, you actually got it for about the price of what a normal $70 game would be for PlayStation. So hey, I'll get the deluxe edition at that point. So if I can get deluxe editions at $70 as opposed to just the base games at 70, I'll do that every day. But it just seems like there's so many things that would have been more beneficial to be worthwhile. Now, for anybody that was already subscribed to PS Plus and doesn't really care about the PS collection, nothing really changes for them. For the person that may have already had PS Now, which I still have an unused year subscription to PS Now, that I don't know if they're going to have any kind of upgrade or a conversion type of thing, kind of like what Game Pass did. So I'm going to probably hang on to that for a little bit longer at least. But it would have been nice for them to, make mention of those things, or things like how long are the trials, or if there are discounts afterwards. But for the PS Now and PS Plus subscriber, PS Extra is your thing. Hey, that's all you really need. And if you're one of those that likes to play old games, pay even more with the
And it
back
sounds like
behind that higher price. So yeah,
it sounds like the folks that played PS Now and PS Plus subscribers, people who are that Venn diagram of people who subscribe to both, they do make out a little bit in this deal because
yeah.
supposedly combined that way they lead out to like what, a $5 discount or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think if you buy the year, you save like between $5 and $10 or so. But then
Okay,
again, if you
okay,
look at the holiday pricing on those cards individually, it's kind of a wash at that
it's a
point.
wash. Understood, understood.
But
Okay.
yeah, they hopefully, fingers crossed, they do hear. Even though I guess their loyal fans aren't really, they're not complaining. They're like, oh, this is fine. Why is everybody complaining? But I, hey, I still buy their stuff. I still play on the
yeah.
console,
I
and
mean,
I want what I want. If I
yeah,
can save a couple of bucks here and there, as we'll discuss later with Game
yeah.
Pass. But yeah, I was expecting it, at least a little bit more. This is like the bare minimum. It was
Yeah.
like they sent in their homework as opposed to actually doing it or something. I don't know. Just it.
Yeah, and like I said before, I mean, ultimately, I just want to frame this properly. I know we're all having this discussion, but like, I think it's a start. It is a start, right? Like, no matter however you want to take that, right, good or bad, it is a start. It's going to be their start. So, we'll see how this evolves over time. More information coming, I'm sure. Around the summer event, we'll get some more details. They'll probably start talking about games dropping in the service, different things like that. So, shout out to everybody watching live right now. Appreciate you guys. I see your questions, Gabe. You got some interesting stuff here. But Pong, we're gonna go ahead and throw this over to you. I'm sure I'll get to one of your questions here in a minute, Gabe. But we want to go ahead and let Pong dive into this a little bit, brother.
Yeah. Talked about this a lot. So look,
Yeah,
first of all, I'm absolutely shocked by anybody outside of the circus, which we knew on both sides was going to be a complete shit show this week, no matter what PlayStation said, right? We knew that, but I'm kind of shocked. Again, I understand the selfish part of it. As we as gamers, we'd love to see Sony come out guns blazing, diving in the
yes,
deep end, putting their best foot forward. But honestly, for as long as we've talked about this, for as many different times as we've seen Sony give us examples of how they do things, There was no reason to expect anything other than this. Schreier laid it out. Paul Tassi wrote a great article explaining that this was going to be a rebrand. Jeff Grubb came out, confirmed information with basically the exact tiers that we were given. I think he was $1 off the premium tier. But the information was generally correct on what we were going to receive. And I am shocked by people's reaction to this. Because, again, what did you expect Sony to do? They weren't going to do anything more than this. They are dipping their toes in. And this is a start, like you said, PTK. This is going to be an evolution over time. Do they have the ability right now to offer some value that you can't find elsewhere? Of course they do. We've talked about that. But does Sony Corp, are they going to allow Jim Ryan to change their whole business model with a flick of a switch and just go against everything that they've built? And they believe that they've built the unstoppable PlayStation at this point. No, they're not going to do that. Jim Ryan isn't making these decisions alone. Jim Ryan isn't fully 100% in control. He has to go sell these ideas to a board who is still made up of, generally speaking, older men who are set in their ways from the old days and who do not change overnight. They resist change. In fact, they don't want to rock the boat when they believe their boat is just sailing high and we're headed towards the treasure. That's how they believe it. Jim has to sell these things piece by piece. That's why it took so long for for Sony first party games to start showing up on PC. He has to sell the board. Again, am I assuming a lot here? Of course I am. Could I be completely wrong? Of course I could be. But again, history dictates what we are going to see here and exactly what happened. So Jim has to take baby steps towards that. Even Jim, as a businessman, numbers guy, knows what the future looks like. He knows what a subscription service can do. When he talks about this idea that if they did day and date, that it would affect their games, he's not lying as it stands right now, because they don't have a diverse lineup of games. They don't have games that keep people engaged for long periods of time. They don't have games as a service driving revenue into their ecosystem on a regular monthly basis. So he is not wrong, because if you put one and done games, and when I use that term, it's not slighting what Sony is good at doing, what they are masters of doing. They are one and done games with very little to absolutely no monetization whatsoever, very little to no DLC whatsoever, no multiplayer what to speak of, including The Last of Us 2, which was supposed to have factions. They have this style of game that does not fit well with day and date subscription services. What you will have is just what we've talked about time and time again: people subscribing when the game comes out, playing it for 2 months, beating it, month maybe, and then unsubscribing. And that is not sustainable when you spend $100 to $200 million on a game. That's why Xbox, having Microsoft at their back, has gone out and done all this investing, and why we have basically every type of game that you can think of sitting in Game Pass right now. So that when whoever jumps in, it doesn't matter whether it's Harry, it doesn't matter whether it's Larry, it doesn't matter if it's Carrie. When they jump into this, they find games that they want to keep playing and something that interests them. Sony can't offer that right now. So to bring out a service day and date would be kind of slitting your own throat at this point. However, Jim has plans. That's why Jim came out and announced games going to PC. That's why Jim did that interview last year and said, I know the market's capped.
Oh,
on the
and
console.
today he also said that they're still looking to acquire more studios as well.
Correct.
So they're not done doing that.
They are setting themselves up, but they can't do it right now. But that's why he said in that interview he wants to expand. He sees it. I do believe it. Again, you could think whatever you want to think about Jim Ryan. He's a business guy, okay? Pure and simple, he's a business guy, and I respect him for what he's done at Sony. He didn't just walk into Sony one day, show up, and just, magically, create this great success. No. He started towards the bottom as well, worked his way up, and then took the European market to the next level with the PS4, right? And he did something special over there. That's why they put him here instead of Sean Layden. okay, to do exactly what he's doing right now. But he's got to sell other people. So he already has come out and said, hey, by the way, we got 10 games as a service in production, getting ready to roll out in the next, whatever he said, 2 years, 3 years, whatever he said it was. And so they have those plans, because once they get that going, let's say that they hit on 3 out of those 10 games of service. We know not every games of service is going to be successful. Let's say he hits on 3 out of 10, okay, 30%. Then he can go to the corporate board and say, look what I've created. Now we have constant revenue streams from these games as a service rolling on in. We dropped them into our service. You guys said you want to see results. Now we've got results. Okay. We went ahead and cut deals with third parties to get some third party titles into our service, which is also probably going to be announced, like you were talking about PTK, in the lead up to June. We're going to hear more, because I know they're doing that. That's got to be a part of their plan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He's going to go to this board and say, look, now I'm bringing you constant revenue. Okay. Now we've shifted our studios into a new mindset. We've taken the time over this past 1, 2, 3 years, whatever it's going to take. Now we have games in the pipeline that are set up to provide us that continuous revenue stream if we drop them into our service day and date. We need that engagement for our service to keep these people subscribed. Let me do this. We don't have to do every single one. We don't even have to start there. Just let me pick select titles to drop into the service. This is going to be an evolution, because it has to be for Sony. They cannot do what Microsoft did, because they don't have the resources. They don't have the money. They don't have any of it. They can't flip the ship 180 and say, hey, new business model.
And this is
he's got to convince the court. Yeah.
I think most of us generally, we were okay with that. Like, that's not even my, like, for me, like, that's not even my, like, I just, what you have available to you, Sony, how are you going to utilize those resources? But I didn't consider a lot of the points that you made, a latter part of your conversation here. So some of those things I overlooked.
It's going to be piecemealed out, right? It's going to be piecemealed. He's going to find a way while they're going through this internal shift. Because again, I can guarantee you the next games that we see, the next block of games coming out, not God of War Ragnarok, not that stuff, but the Spider-Mans, the Wolverines, I can guarantee you almost 100%. Again, I never say 100% because nothing's for sure, but I can almost guarantee you that those things will either have multiplayer aspects to them, or they will have some monetization to them, right? They're going to have something that aligns those games with where they're going towards the future with the service. They're going to start doing that with their studios. Is it necessarily going to be blatant outright like Gran Turismo is? No, it's not. But I don't doubt that Gran Turismo is set up to be one of the first-party games to drop in there as well, sooner rather than later. Whether it's in June or whether it's a little bit, towards holidays, they're going to drop that game in there because it's set up perfectly for that system. Microsoft has the advantage. Xbox has the advantage. They've been doing this for a lot longer. They've had their games set up this way for a lot longer. Sony, on the other hand, painted themselves into a corner where they became masters at what they do, but those games don't lend themselves to a subscription service in any way, shape, or form. They now have to reevaluate and change how they do that stuff. So Jim's not lying here. The other thing that's funny to me is that when people pulled out this interview that Jim did after this announcement, they only pulled out the first paragraph where he talks about that the quality of the games would go down, that subscription services they don't believe are sustainable. The corporate talking line that he's given before, he reiterated, but everybody skipped the next paragraph. And again, with Jim Ryan, we should know better than to just look at what he says, the first part of what he says. You have to look at the rest of what he says in total and then go ahead and make a judgment on it. Because his next paragraph was like, but I'm not saying that's not going to happen down in the future. I'm not saying we're not going to go there. Things in this industry change extremely quickly. That's Jim Ryan. And I said this on Living Split Screen this morning. The Fifth Horseman's probably heard this rant already. But that's Jim Ryan winking at you through the camera going, I got you. I know where we're going. I know what we're doing. Don't worry about it. Just got to give me some time. Okay, we're going to get there. But he's towing the company line by making that statement up front about the quality issue. He's also speaking to the diehard fan base that we know is out there that praises the price markups, that thinks that there's no way you can make quality games by having a subscription service. that he's speaking to them as well, because just like the PC transition, that was a big no-no for his hardcore fan base too, and they had to ease them into it. That's what he's doing here. He's playing a game of chicken. I will say this, he's playing a game of chicken. Sony is overall playing a game of chicken, right? Because there is the clock has already started ticking.
Yeah.
Xbox already has a lead, okay? And they're playing a game of chicken with them believing that they, with their fan base, with the loyalty that they've developed over the years, can go ahead and take this extra time to make this slower transition without allowing Xbox to get to an insurmountable lead, right? That's what they're playing chicken with here. They, in the back of their heads, obviously still believe that even with Xbox getting out first, even with Xbox with all the benefits, Sony is the turtle in this race. And they believe that. They believe that they can do this slow, steady pace. They can buy smaller studios. They don't have to buy publishers, but they've been buying more than they ever have in their history, which is another great indicator as to what's going on here. But they can make that work, transition their studios, change some models within their studios to make it more applicable to a subscription service, then start pumping out games that fit in there, and then start putting day and date and still catch up at the end of the day subscription wise, or at least carve out a giant piece of the pie with their name and with their games alone. So they are playing a little bit of a chicken here. We heard Phil last year. Phil came out when he did an interview and he said flat out that he thought Sony would do day and date. Now, we all know, again, this isn't war. These aren't people not talking to each other at all. All these guys talk to each other. Now, they're not giving away corporate secrets, obviously. They're not going to tell each other strategies or anything like that. But I'm sure they talk the general of where the industry is going and how their companies are shaping that future. So Phil obviously had the impression that they would do day and date. Now, he didn't say day one that the launch service that it would be day and date, but everybody kind of took it that way. But Phil knows that Jim knows as well, right? That eventuality is going to happen. However, I'm sure Phil and his team were kind of sitting back and smiling about this when they came out and did not announce day and date, when they came out and basically gave us the bare minimum rebranding of what they already have. I can guarantee you Phil kind of sat back and kind of sighed a little bit and said, we got more time. We got more time for this. Let's keep going. Let's keep rocking. We got to keep increasing this lead, and we got to keep doing what we're doing, but we got to do more. And so I think for them, it was probably a sigh of relief. But Jim on the other side and his team are probably pretty confident that this plan is going to work, that they're going to be able to slowly turn the ship and eventually catch up. Or, like I said, at least getting within closing distance, which for them would be good enough.
One thing we got to understand, and I want to make sure I throw this on top of what you brought up some great points, Pong, is that these two companies are operating from two different perspectives as well.
Complete different business models.
Completely different. Sony doesn't have to catch up to anything. Like they're not operating from a position of we need to catch up. Like even with the Game Pass, even though they are behind, quote unquote, behind with the Game Pass stuff, they don't feel like they're behind on anything. Like we don't feel like we're behind anything.
Their revenue says they're not. Right?
No, they're absolutely not. And for all intents and purposes, they are not. And chat, once again, we want to be very clear here. We try and make these things non-biased as well. So if that's the kind of podcast you're looking for, hello, how are you doing? But ultimately, like these companies are operating from two different perspectives here, and that's one thing I just wanted to kind of throw that on top of what you were already saying, Pong, because we can't lose perspective because Xbox is operating. From what Xbox is doing, Game Pass has to function differently for their goals than what this Spartacus or rebrand has to function for Sony's goals, right? Sony's just, like you said, they're dipping their toes. They're like, we're going to do this. We're going to say we're going to do it. We need to do this because we know we need to do it, but it's going to evolve over time. Microsoft's like, hey, we're changing our entire direction of where things are going here. You know, we have to do this because we're already ahead of the game. We have different types of services. Our strength lies in these different service models, right? Servers, things like that.
Exactly. When you hear Phil, you could hear it in the way that they speak, right? When Phil talks and people from Xbox talk, they talk about future stuff, right? They talk about the future stuff a lot. They're looking at the 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan right now. Okay, that's where they're focused on. They, if you want to count it as a war, they lost a war last generation to the point where they were almost out of business. Okay, whether you believe that or not, that's the case. Okay. So they came from nothing, but they decided to not focus necessarily. Yes, you have to still focus on the current. Obviously, that's why we have the Series X, that's why we have the Series S, all that good stuff. But their goals have now, they're saying we're going to leapfrog and we're going to get ahead of where everybody else is. They've tried this before. They've been right in many times in the past, although it's cost them failures in the past, but in the end, they were right. This time they're hitting at the right mark. So they're jumping ahead of everybody. Whereas Sony's saying, no, we're still successful. Jim even said in that interview, I'm looking, this is for the short term right now. He even said that this is the short term. So Sony right now is saying, hey, our revenue's still going up. We're still selling out of PlayStation 5s. Our games are doing 10 million plus every time we put a successful one out. Look, we're in good shape. We don't have to skip ahead. We don't have to think we're going to get there. We know it's coming. We're not dumb. This is business. This is $1 billion company. Sony's not stupid. Jim's not stupid. We know that's going to eventually be here, and we have to plan for that. But we can take our time and do it our way. Number one, because we're going to throw ourselves out on a very, very precarious limb if we try to do this overnight and change our entire business
imagine
model. Let's do it our way.
So Sony going in this space is like you going from the kiddie pool to the big pool. Like you know the little kiddie pool where the moms get to sit on the side and there's a little slide and the pool about 10 inches deep into the this is like, so because that's the space Sony's going into. This is Google, Apple space, right? This is Google, Microsoft. Like that's a whole different, that's sharks swimming around.
Right. We saw Google jump out. Right. We saw Google try to dip their toes and they jumped out. Right. That's Google. Right. So Sony's got to do this the right way. But again, they built their dynasty. They know what they're doing here. It's just not going to be the same way is the only thing, because they're going to hold on to that old business model that's working for them until they don't have to anymore. And again, Jim understands. I think if Jim was running the show, we would see a very quick turnaround, at least in some instances. I think that we'd be seeing more first party day and date on PC for sure. And I think that he would be increasing in those areas. But I think that since he does have to deal with the board, it is slowing him down a little bit. But again, from a standpoint of having that bankroll behind you to be able to eat costs, and maybe we'll talk about it during our kind of open session with the family plans or whatever else too. That's not something that everybody can do. Like it's going to cost Microsoft at the end of the day to do something like that. Right. So that's not something Sony is in the position to do. They're doing fine. They just, again, it's big bank versus little bank. So they're going to have to do it their way. And I think that this is their starting point. Like you, PTK, I'm just happy they're doing something. I'm happy that they're moving forward. And like I said, as we approach June, I do expect to hear more details. I do expect them to add some stuff in here, like saying, hey, got to deal with Square Enix. All the Final Fantasy is going to be available in there as well. Right. I expect those types of announcements. Now, if we don't hear that, if June just comes and goes and all we still have is just this with no hint at a roadmap or what they're doing to entice people, well, then maybe I'll say, okay, Jim, what are you doing? Because you need to bring something, because this is not going to hold people's attention for very long, right? People are going to have to be subscribed to the smallest one in order to be online. But otherwise, you got to give value on the outside, because those backward compatibility streaming titles really aren't going to keep people locked in. Okay. They're not going to stay subscribed. Some of your hardcore will, but overall you're not. They want to right now not necessarily bring in new customers like, oh my God, I got to get over to Sony. What a great value. They're more going to try to convert their base over right now with this setup, but you're still going to have to do something else. You're still going to have to entice them to stick around and I think the Samurai Warrior 3 that we saw drop in the PS Plus, the beginning of March, was the first indicator that they're talking to third parties and they're going to work those kind of deals out as well.
Okay, well, so great topic. Obviously, a lot of great points to be made. And this is something that's going to evolve over time. We do understand that. So, chat, we definitely want to look at things, and then this particular topic on that perspective. We do get this is going to evolve, and we'll see many different versions of this hopefully over time. So we'll move on, and we're still talking about services here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Xbox. So shout out to Windows Central. Jez tweeted out that essentially Xbox is going to be dropping a Xbox Gamepass Family Plan. So this is fucking awesome. This is something that if you were a 360 owner, Something that was, very synonymous with the brand, was a great plan. I think you paid around $100, 105, somewhere in that range, for 4 different gamer tags. Obviously, the options aren't readily available like they are now with the sharing and all of that, but it was really, really cool. Obviously, you got the gamer tags. You guys were able to do some creative things with that. So this is, once again, the next evolution of Game Pass. So I'm actually going to start with you on this one, Fuzz. I know we usually start with this, but this is something Fuzz has been sitting on, and I'm going to get you started here. But yeah, we'll start with you on this one, Fuzz. Just where are you at on this, man? I know I tweeted it out to you directly when I saw it. So I mean, I'm sure you want to know more about it.
Well, my biggest thing, this is one of the things I've been kind of asking for a while. Looking at it from a software standpoint, like where you have Office and other software and stuff like that, where you can have family plans to kind of like share licenses and stuff. It's having twin boys and a wife that uses her current PlayStation as more of a Netflix box. She does play a handful of games every now and then. Games like Don't Starve and Gang Beasts and things like that. But it's been as high as $45 a month for Game Pass Ultimate, because my boys each have their own, smartphone. They have their own gaming PC. I have my own gaming PC and smartphone, and we all have, an Xbox console. I have a Series X. They both have their own Series S. And game share only goes between 2 consoles. And there have been some times where it's like, okay, there's a couple of games on Game Pass that we would all like to play at the same time. So yeah, it was a matter of one having to, or buying a separate, Game Pass subscription for my one son, and then game share with my other son. But the I guess just the idea of a family plan is a huge thing for households where there's at least 3 gamers or more, or multiple consoles and things like that beyond the normal game sharing range. So I can't wait for further details. As long as it's lower than 45 that I've been paying or have paid for a couple of months, but I'm hoping it's 30 or less, to be honest, for Ultimate. But like I said, as long as it's lower than 45, that'll be awesome. But I can't stress this enough, considering how just having the ability to play either the same games or being able to play games under Game Pass all at the same time, without having to jump through hoops like we do with, like, for PC. You kind of have to jump through hoops where I have to log into their PC and then leave myself logged in and then not use my PC and then have it where they can play the games. But it's like enough jumping through hoops. Give me a family plan. If it means I'm paying a little bit extra to have access to those licenses, so be it. But as long as it's cheaper than full out multiple plans type of thing, and that I just can't wait. I'm looking forward to when they make the announcement official.
Awesome. And I do see the announcement. Possibly, maybe we'll get this at their summer event, right? Maybe that's when we'll see it. Maybe a little bit later in the year. Who knows, right? So it's very, very interesting. Something that, once again, if you had a 360, we talked about.
I didn't have a 360. I was PlayStation at that point, but I've had family plans. Like, we have some of our Microsoft stuff and some of our Adobe stuff is kind of like a family plan now. So yeah, having Game Pass as a family plan would be awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and throw this over to the guest here, Kay Asante, man. So obviously, we haven't got anything official, right? So there's a lot of directions, a lot of stuff we can talk about, a lot of ideas we can throw out there. And chat, let us know once again, what do you guys think about this as well? What do you guys think about the idea of a Game Pass family plan? So you having children, Kay Asante, being a father, owning multiple consoles, having multiple different people playing them. What is this for you? Is it the biggest thing for you is going to be value? Obviously, normally it's price, or is it just like, how are they going to execute this?
Oh, is he muted?
I don't know if he's muted or not. I don't know. So we'll while we work this out, we'll actually throw this over to Pong. So Pong, go ahead.
Hey, Asante's shooting an important scene between him and him and Master Chief right now, so he's gonna be busy for a bit. Look, the family plan has been long coming. It doesn't, do anything for me, obviously, at this point in my life, but obviously, I know how many people in this community, including Fuzz, have been clamoring for this. Shout out to Fun Speculation, Mav. Again, it just made sense. Like Fuzzy already brought up, they do it with their other services. We knew that this was in the works. This is one of those moments I'd like to be in there just from a business standpoint to see the complexity that they had to work through with this. Jez kind of spoke about it on the Xbox 2. Shout out to him and Rand. The complexity involving the third-party deals in Game Pass, because they're paying a lot of these devs based upon engagement, based upon downloads. And all of a sudden, you're now giving the opportunity for people to take advantage of a system. Look, if what Jez is saying is right, and this is not going to be limited to household, this is going to be limited to country. So any 5 people in the country can share a plan. There are going to be a lot of people and their buddies jumping into this, okay, and taking advantage of this. Now, there's benefits for Xbox as well. Their numbers could shoot through the roof because companies play with subscription numbers. We know it happens over on Netflix. That's why Netflix has chosen so long to ignore the password sharing going on, because those individual IPs that use Netflix can be counted as a subscriber, okay? Whether or not they legitimately are paying for the service or not, they can be counted as a subscriber. So if they wipe that out, it's going to look like they've lost a lot of subscribers if they are going to continue to count the numbers that way. Xbox can do the same thing. They're going to know. They know when they put this out there that it's not going to be family members. Yes, there's going to be a lot of families that take advantage, like Fuzzy, but it's going to be friends, and they're going to be getting together and taking advantage. I assume or expect that this will come in at about $30 to $35 per month. And I think that obviously they know exactly what's going to happen, but it could boost their numbers. They could all of a sudden jump up with subscribers when they announce this and everybody starts getting involved in it, right? So that's going to be good for Xbox. It's going to make their subscriber service look even bigger. It's going to be great for engagement. Friends now who are kind of on the outside, maybe looking in, who may not have jumped in the Game Pass for a variety of reasons, when their friends are saying, hey, come join us. I'll just add you to my ultimate family plan. Throw me $5. Look, that's what's going to happen. And all of a sudden they're going to have another user in there. So, I think there's benefits here, but the complexity of working around the contracts and how they're going to pay people, the third-party devs, I cannot imagine what that looked like. And like I said just prior, when we were talking about PlayStation, again, only with Microsoft, the corporation's backing, could you pull this off, I think, because I think that at the end of the day, with all those contracts written, with how favorable devs have spoken about those contracts, I don't think that they're changing a whole lot when it comes to negotiations or those deals. I think Microsoft themselves are going to eat a lot of the cost that comes out of this. At the end of the day, I think they're just going to eat it, and they're going to count it as a win because their numbers should spike a little bit after they announce this. But I definitely expect that summertime, E3, if not then, right before the holidays. Again, how great for families right now walking into stores come Black Friday, and you can pick up 2 Series S's for your kids, right, at a discounted price of $250, and then know that you can go on a family plan so that you can still play on your Series X. You can have your 2 kids playing on Series S's, and it's not going to matter. Again, value just continues to go through the roof for what they're offering right now. This is just another big W overall for Xbox, even if they are going to be eating some costs at the end of the day. This is a big W.
Oh, yeah. And then before we get to Asante here, you there, Asante? Just want to make sure.
I'm here. Yep.
Oh, okay, good. All right. So before we get to Asante, very, very interesting, because they did say, just to throw a little nugget of information out there, they did say it was going to be cheaper than buying 5, I believe, separate accounts. So something along those lines. I haven't done the math. I think Bunty, shout out to you. I believe he just did a little bit of math in the chat. So I do believe it'll fall somewhere between like the 30 to 35 range. It has to, somewhere in that range.
Yep.
As far as monthly for the family plan, which is not a bad deal, for what you're getting. If it is 5 up to 5 gamer tags, or however they want to parse it out. So we'll throw this over to you, Asante. Obviously, you being a father, having multiple consoles, things like that. Where are you at when you heard about this?
See, it's actually kind of funny. Like, I fall in the "is this news" camp. About 9 months ago, a fan fest event. They said, "Oh, everybody sign up." That was the height of the pandemic, and they couldn't do any in-person visits and all that. So you sign up online, and then they had these online kind of virtual meetings and whatnot. Long story short, I and about 20 other folks won a chance to go see a virtual chat, Zoom chat, with Aaron Greenberg and Pete Hines. And this exact question was brought up, and they said this to us 9 months ago. Oh yeah, we're don't worry, we're working on. Pretty soon, you'll see some information about Game Pass having a family plan. And 9 months later, it's being leaked and still hasn't been officially announced by Microsoft. Goes to show you how big the ship is that they have to turn in order to get some of these things working. I mean, for me personally, right now. It wouldn't be beneficial for me because my kids are very little, so they're not at the age yet where they're like done with dad and they never want to see him, so they have to get their own plans. They are right now at that place where that they cannot get enough of dad, so I'm still in heaven.
Awesome.
So for now, I'm good. But I do know that there are a bunch of folks that I respect that I talk to all the time who are in that situation where you know they game share with their kids just as a chance to be able to see them. So this might be beneficial for them to use. I think I'm rather surprised that it took as long as it has for this to materialize. I kind of hoped this was part and parcel of the offerings early on. I mean, they've been setting this up rather well for quite some time to get this done. I mean, I use their family app. Like, so my daughter plays Xbox and she has a gamer tag and all of that. So I use this family app that they've introduced to keep an eye on how long she's playing, turn off her account if she's played too long. Whenever she wants to buy something, they ask me for permission. So you can clearly see that they've had that mindset and they've been thinking about expanding to that to the family plan aspect for a while. Office 365, I have an Office 365 account. There's a family plan there, up to 5 people, right? And that's not a special family plan you buy. That is just when you buy Office 365 as a home account, you have the option of giving it through to 5 family members, right? So they definitely have a history of being able to offer it. It's I suspect that if there's a reason why it's been delayed, it's most likely the same reason why just recently they announced in Malaysia that they started doing Game Pass. I'm talking about xCloud trials. Different regions have different rules, things like that. I suspect that may have slowed them down. But yeah, it's this is a great win for all of them, for anybody who's a Game Pass subscriber already, who's having two subscriptions in the same house. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So this will definitely clean that up. This is
Huge
awesome.
W. Huge W. Dads, moms, people with families, huge W for all of us. So, once
Yeah,
again, competition is good, people. Iron sharpens iron. This is what we need, right? This is what we need.
indeed.
We need these companies to push each other. That way, we all can benefit no matter what platform you decide to choose or play on, whatever the case may be. And I don't want to forget this. Shout out to Gabe Bowl for the 199 super chat, bro. Appreciate the dono. Thank you so much, man. Thank you everybody for just coming out and watching. You don't have to do that, but if you do want to support the show even further, that is another way to do so. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for that. But we are now taking questions. So if any questions you guys have wanting to hold back, I thought I saw a couple earlier in chat, and I'll let I know Fuzz and Pong probably have parsed through those already. But if you want to go ahead and drop your questions or some questions that we didn't get to, some topics we didn't get to, I know there was actually a couple things, Fuzz, that we had already had in the docket, right? I can't remember exactly. It was a couple things. Let me pull it up.
Well, they had recently the I think what's his name, Benji was saying it's going to be pretty interesting as far as for like Series X sales for
Oh
March.
yeah, that did come. I don't know if you saw Asante or Pong. Did you guys
Hmm.
see Benji's tweet?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. So I mean, we're
yeah.
gonna just head. I don't care who goes. We'll just parse into this, man. Dive in.
Oh, I'm just interested to see, where they got all those from because I mean, what was it? 2 days ago, I saw the Series X available on Amazon. Yesterday, I saw it was available on Amazon. This morning is when it was sold out. So they had a pretty darn good amount of stock at Amazon for quite some time. And actually, even when I saw the Series X had finally gone out of stock, the Series S was still in stock. So they're out there, like they're really out there, you know. So it'll be interesting to see how the numbers look. I do remember that PlayStation also had a recent round of stock. I didn't see it on Amazon, but I did hear that it was about to happen. But theirs wasn't as available. Now, obviously, that doesn't speak to anything specific, but still, you know, they're each platform is turning around and trying to offer as many of the boxes as they possibly can. And it looks like Xbox is being pretty successful at it. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, what that translates into once the numbers come out.
No, absolutely. And it's very interesting to see because I saw as well, I think he put a subtweet underneath that, I believe, or somebody did, that this would be for the last 5 months as far as Xbox US sales, that it would have, if
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
things go the way or they're trending, that Xbox
Yep.
is actually outsold PlayStation, at least in the US. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
outside of the US, Sony's a far more popular brand overall, and we get
Mhm.
that. But even in those other territories, that gap has been incredibly small, if any at all. To be honest with you, the last few months. So this is kind of, and people, obviously people are going to take this a couple different ways, right, Asante? They're going to say,
Mm-hmm.
well, doesn't that mean they're just more available? Like, yeah, I've seen Xbox sitting on the shelves for 8 months, like, right, or whatever, right? Like, people are going to
But
say that as,
but that's such a ridiculous assertion, though. Like,
I mean, but people are going
if
to
you
say that,
see,
right?
true, and those people, when I hear anyone say that, I laugh quietly inside my soul and I say, "Poor you," because we live in a world where people go to stores to buy product, right? They do so physically, they do so virtually. If a product is available to be sold, people go out and they pay for it and they bring it home. So to have a talking point that speaks that tries to make the idea of something being on a shelf ready to be purchased as a bad thing, that is a very sorry talking point that has that holds no water. So, you know, PlayStation wishes they had things on shelves because then you, as a person who wants one, would be able to see it and buy it off the shelf. They want that, right? That's what everybody wants. So the fact that the fact that you see something on a shelf is not a bad thing. It means it's ready to be purchased, which is where they want it to be. So it's a good thing. You know, it will be very interesting to see where all this shakes out because we live in that world where Xbox goes. We don't really need your purchase of a console. We kind of want you to purchase one, but we don't need it, right? And Xbox, while PlayStation is all like still that old school model, but they're also slowly but surely, hey, let's see these old God of War numbers rise higher in Steam and see what they start doing there. You know what I
So,
mean? Like it's a very interesting world that we're moving into.
and shout out to a couple people here. Shout out to Bunty for the $5 super chat. He said, I have two Xbox SXs, and then he has two
Hmm.
box SXs, two boxes Series X, and then two Xbox Series S. So he said my kids play constantly, so this will be a great. I can't wait for this saving. So no, you're right. I mean,
Awesome.
that
Yeah.
the family plan is going to be amazing for people that have families and kids, and individuals that do own, you have multiple consoles. And then shout out to Ray for the dose of logic here, right? We don't have enough of that, right? He said when a product is not in stock as a business, you have a problem. So
There you
I
go.
mean, like, you kind of want things to be available for people to buy, right? Like if I'm providing the goods, you provide the money to purchase the goods. So I get where you're going there. So we're gonna keep this thing rolling. I don't know if Fuzz or Pong, you guys wanted to touch on that as well. Pong, anything to layer on top of that if you like, bro?
All right, no, look, I mean, it's great to see, and it's great to see the pictures of them actually being on the shelves. Like Kei Asante said, that's what you want as a business. The opposite, while it's great to say, well, hype levels are so high, we're selling out nonstop. Look, if we had not gone through the pandemic, they would have been on the shelves last year. Okay, despite all the hype, despite all of that, they would have been able to produce plenty to get to that point. At this juncture, with all the stuff that we've heard, it's obvious. And again, Sony's doing their own work on the back end, trying to secure product and trying to secure chips and trying to secure all the materials that are necessary to make a console, along with the manufacturing process. But Phil and his team have been hard at work too. And they've partnered with some people, like being as close as they are with AMD. I'm sure, certainly, excuse me, I can't speak, doesn't hurt as well. I know, obviously PlayStation's a partner of AMD too, but we know how close AMD and Microsoft are. So, all that kind of stuff plays into this. It's great to see it because, like everybody just pointed out, people walking into the store, seeing it, being able to just grab it, pick it up, not worry about the online, not worry about scalpers, not worrying about all that garbage is really what you want still in this digital age. To this day and date, brick and mortar still exists. That's what you want for your customers. It makes them feel good when they can do that. It's a win again that Microsoft has pulled this off. However they did this, maybe they've been stocking up, who the heck knows, for a run here. But obviously the numbers, we'll never know for sure true numbers. Everything is always going to be estimated because Microsoft does not release numbers, but it still will be interesting to see the sales numbers because, like you said, PTK, it's been a lot closer. Even the estimations are a lot closer than it has been over an entire generation. So it is going to be something to watch. Right now, that's all it's about. Which company can get out the product? That's where we're at with this. And again, for all the people, the clown show, the circus, who wants to sit there and try to disparage us and say, see, nobody wants a series console. That's why they're sitting on the shelves. Yeah, like as Asante said, I chuckle on the inside and go, yeah, you guys are fools. You guys have no idea what you're talking about.
So,
yep.
No, go ahead. You finish.
No. I was
jumping in.
You're
so I wanted to throw something. Gabe threw something out there. He said not necessarily. Nike does out of stock bit all the time with certain sneakers. I don't, Pong, and you could probably dive on it. That's not an apple to apple comparison though. We're talking about shoes to consoles, right? Like that's more of a like rarity thing. Like, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's not like the Xbox and PlayStation don't want to not produce consoles. They're not, you know what I mean? Like they want to make as many of these things available as possible. I mean, I wouldn't say the shoe situation out of stock is the same.
The difference is artificial scarcity.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Self-created scarcity.
They're fighting against.
Exactly.
They have Xbox is not fighting against a reseller market.
If you see with Nintendo sometimes with a controlled release, like a lot of times they release their like. At least when the Switch first came out, it was like they released them in certain batches where it was like, and they even did it with the Wii, where you didn't see any for like months and months because it's like, all right, we want to flood the market for the holidays and then, you know, but drip them out before then type of thing. So that way people are lined up around the building and then it makes that like drives demand type of thing. But I don't think that's what PlayStation's doing. I think,
I don't.
And we talked about this a long time ago about the chipset, possibly would it be an overclock, might be a yield thing.
Yeah, good. Keep going. That's where I was going as well. That is a very interesting place. Yes.
Yeah, I think PlayStation's at a slight disadvantage just from a consistency standpoint, possibly. Just when you do overclocking, it is you're not going to have as many chipsets as readily available in comparison. And I think with Microsoft doing the 2 console deal, they can basically double their production based on going with the lower clock, or not really lower clock, but the lower setup for the Series clock. S. So that helps them in that regard and hurts PlayStation in the overclock regard. But you know, I knowing PlayStation, they're like, if they could churn out any of them that they can, like I'm surprised that they're not pushing more of their refurbished, because I'm hearing that Microsoft even offers their refurbs, but I'm surprised PlayStation hasn't gotten to that point where they're pushing any of the returns or refurbs. That, you know, some of the early failures that we saw where the screen not screen tearing, but the screen flashing and all that stuff from the beginning. Or from early launch consoles and stuff, but yeah, that's all I got.
Oh no. Once again, chat. We're still taking questions. We still got at least in half an hour. You know, we're gonna hang out with you guys for as long as possible here. So throw more of your questions in the chat. We love to hear. You know, some we don't always get to everything, so this is an opportunity for you guys to control the show. You know, just get your questions out, stuff that you guys want us to talk about that we don't have lined up. So anything else in the docket? I kind of want to go over something here. I was just looking in our DMs here. I want to talk a little bit about the State of Decay situation. State of Decay 3, right? I want to more so talk about the game. I don't want to get into the studio stuff, right? Like that's a bit hairy. But I really want to just talk about the state of the game and kind of where it's at, because State of Decay 3 is something that we saw obviously a flash of, right? We don't even know if that was, we don't really know much of what that was. A lot of us assume maybe in-game, you know, cinematics possibly. But just to hear and shout out to Clobill for dropping the information. Just some quick bullet points. He said potentially refined parkour movement, dynamic animal spawns based on the weather. One of our most ambitious open world games in development. Could still be in pre-production. Rocket development, things have been going better since last year. So, anybody want to just jump in on this really quick? Did anybody actually like look at this information or see this earlier in the week?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the other stuff as far as the studio stuff kind of overshadows it a little bit, but it's good that they're at least back on track as far as getting things worked out from some of the issues that they had shortly after the acquisition and stuff. But I kind of figured that this game originally I thought it was going to be a little bit sooner, just because a lot of people were saying, "Oh yeah, it should be soon, like within 2 years." But considering even if none of the issues that happen in the background happen, a smaller team that's leveling up or growing or expanding, working on something that's going to be more quote unquote AAA quality in comparison to the previous titles, because a lot of people was hoping for that with State of Decay 2 as far as visually. I thought it was going to be like a 4-year deal, especially if they're new to the Unreal Engine. As far as, yes, there's going to be a lot of help within the Microsoft first party establishment that kind of help them along, or that they can kind of lean on. But I kind of figured early on that it was going to be at least 4 years plus, if not longer, for them to kind of transition, even with, especially considering that they were showing the CGI.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
all
it
we
was a little
saw.
bit longer off.
Yeah,
So.
that's all we saw. We saw that's the only thing we've seen since as well. Like that's another thing that's a clear indication, because even if some of the other stuff that we saw, I can't remember which E3 was that. What year was that? 19, 20, something like that. And when we saw that,
I think it was either 19 or 20. I think it was more so 19.
somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure, but anybody else, Sante, Pong, you want to dive in on this a little bit at all?
Yeah, excuse me. I'm not surprised it's going to take this long. I mean, the information and all that stuff that came out about the studio, notwithstanding, that studio and their original vision has always been to push themselves with every release, right? So the first one was a spark. The second one was supposed to be the big sprawling open world that didn't quite hit it yet. And third in the franchise was supposed to be a full blown MMO, right? We don't know if they're still following that game plan, but they are definitely still continuing to try and drive themselves in a more expansive, more complexity, broader direction. So it will be interesting to see what this thing ultimately turns out to be. But I'm not surprised at all that it's taking as long as it is. I'm not surprised that that most of the games in the Microsoft stable are taking as long as they are, because
It's a lot going
both.
on, man.
That's right. That's right. Right. Not only did the pandemic come and change their world upside down, but they had put a different kind of leader in a position that had a different leadership style, which is, let's give them the time they need, and we'll support them as long as we need until it's done, even if it takes a while. Right. That is both Phil Spencer's style, and the pandemic has also led to also delays being inevitable. So combine those, and you have this perfect storm of, hey, we haven't heard from them in a while. What's going on? Oh, a bunch of them are all still in pre-production. Why? Because the teams are allowed to investigate and prototype and try new things. And yes, growing pains and bad actors that need to be weeded out that you keep hearing in various stories. All that happens. When you're on a journey to make a sustainable studio. So to me, none of this spells any gloom and doom or any kind of worry at all, right? If it was a situation where where the situations were allowed to fester beyond the boiling point and nothing was done and people were left feeling horrible about it to this very day, that's different, right? But based on everything we've read both in State of Decay or Undead Labs case, as well as the other cases where we saw with Crystal Dynamic and a few of the others, there was an issue. It was addressed. By the time it's being made news, the issue was dead already. So it's just kind of one of those, we're just keeping you up to date as to what has happened to the studio, not what's happening to the studio.
Yeah,
By and large, it looks like they've taken care of whatever issues are
exactly.
in house and they're moving
All the
forward. So
HR stuff.
yeah, exactly. Which
Yeah.
tends to happen when you bring, people at the tip of the spear of their respective disciplines together and expect them all to gel. There's always a chance that you'll have situations like this. It's just that it's a very high profile, so every situation has the potential to show up on some web page, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, it's played for clicks, but I don't think it's that big a deal. As far as the delay of the game is concerned, I'm waiting for Microsoft to finally get that wheel turning. But like I said, all of these different disparate things coming together to form that perfect storm of delay is understandable, right? So as long as they still are Microsoft and they still have the pockets to bankroll, hey, we don't have our first party, but here are some continued stellar third parties from time to time. As a subscriber, you'll get no complaints from me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. No, and once again, something that we'll see going forward here. But I do want to get to the questions in the chat. I see 2 questions, so I want to make sure we do get to those. So Chris Jones, shout out to you. And I know Pong, you chimed in on this. This is kind of right up your alley here, bro. So he asked in quotes, how many of you are turn-based JRPG fans and ready for the Euden Chronicle 100 Heroes next year? So JRPG, we saw it. It actually looked very, very good. I believe that, what was that game that came out in a very similar art style? That it's very, very close, that art style.
Octopath Traveler.
The Octopath
Octopath,
Traveler. That
Yeah. A lot of people are going to that now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's beautiful. That
It
2D
is.
/ 3D kind of like
Yep.
it's really beautiful. Looks good. But once again, I will concede to the
Yeah,
to
no,
Paul on
I mean,
this one.
no, Chris Jones and I, we talked about this plenty in chats and whatever else. Again, he has a lot of the same interests that I do when it comes to video games. So it's funny. Chris's C unit is an awesome dude. This is for anybody who doesn't know, it's a Suikoden, which is a fantastic JRPG from back in the day that he absolutely, I think that's his GOAT game of all time. It is definitely up on my list. I love that series. It's been dormant for quite a while now, and they kind of transformed it and never worked out the way they used to. This is a spiritual successor to that. Shout out to Chris Jones, by the way, as well, over on Iron Lords. He does write-ups over on Iron Lords. He's written extensively about this game. Go check it out. It does great work over there. But the fact is, yes, of course, I'm excited. I'm hyped. I can't wait. The more, the merrier when it comes to these types of games. And the fact that it's coming to Xbox is just simply fantastic. Again, we need more of that. It's niche. It's not for everybody. I get that. Just like my grand strategy, just like Crusader Kings 3, it's not for everybody. But to see that style still around and flourishing, and to have these new developers coming in, doing spiritual successors to some of the biggest franchises of my childhood when I was in hardcore to JRPGs and turn-based tactics games, this hits that heart spot, that nostalgia, and I can't wait to play that game for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So once again, I love all different types of games. I don't know if this game is gonna be, I believe, Game Pass, right? I'm sure it is.
Yes, it is. Game
so
Pass.
yeah, I'll definitely be looking into it.
Octopath is in Game Pass right now.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so once again, beautiful looking game. So I'm always down to try. My gaming palette has changed so much with Game Pass, so I'm down for the variety. I love it. I definitely love it. And we got another question, I believe, from Gabo here. He said, do you guys like when the studios release trailers for games that aren't scheduled to come out 1 to 2 years or even 3 years? So
I have zero problem with it. So
yeah,
show it off.
My
thing is, the only thing I will say, PTK, is at this point, all this stuff that we talked about, I wish developers, like, they have their internal date that they want to hit for release dates, and they come out and tell us that date, right? I wish from now on, the only thing they would do is just tack a year onto whatever date they have internally, and then surprise us if they're ready to rock and roll a year early or 6 months early, right? Just give us that extra year so that we don't have that date in mind and then they delay it. Again, I'm all for delays. Make the game right. I don't care about the delay, but just from a mental standpoint, I wish they would just tack on a year from now on and just give us that. And then surprise us, come out and be like, hey,
lie to your public and go, hey, we said it was 2013, 2023, but guess what?
Get ready. We're ready. We're ready to rock.
Is living on the edge, man.
I think that'd be fantastic.
That's a bold plan. That's a bold plan, sir.
I would do it.
I like that plan. I mean, Sifu kind of did that when they did a delay, and then they were like, oh, by the way, it's actually going to be a little bit earlier. But that was only like a 30-day early or 20-day earlier type of thing. But yeah, it would be nice to, at least pad things enough where if they trip and fall or they find something just can't be, met by a certain deadline, having that extra year of padding that they could always go back and be like, you know what, we're actually going to release this 6 months earlier and stuff like that. I think the fans would be like, "Oh wow, that's awesome," and probably eat it up even more so, and build the hype for it and stuff like that. So
No, absolutely, absolutely. So I do want to get. I just remembered something. So once again, chat, we're taking questions. We got about 20 minutes here. To take questions. We're gonna rock and roll with with you guys for as long as possible here. Appreciate the support. Once again, subscribe, hit the like button, all of that good stuff. Thank you guys for joining us. I do want to talk a little bit about the no E3 thing, right?
Mhm.
Once again, it's not as impactful this year because we know these companies can they can make they've done this before. Like we got a year or two, they got some experience at this now, and I feel like a lot of us trust these companies to put on the shows despite no E3. Like it's kind of like the norm now. So I don't think there's much of a oh my god E3 is not coming this year. Oh my god, like it was the previous year or two. But still, once again, want to talk about it. Want to get into it. So just ultimately, Jeff Keighley, we talked about that as well pregame. There's still going to be a summer event. So he is chomping at the bit. This is exactly the opportunity that he's looking for. And so he's going to now take over that spot, and which I appreciate. Once again, I don't want to say anything bad about Keighley. I appreciate the fact that we are getting something in that to kind of replace that. Now, the quality remains to be seen, but VGAs have gotten better every year, so I do trust that this Summer Games Fest will continue to improve every year as well. So, anybody just want to dive in on the no E3 and kind of get in on that?
Yeah, I'll say that to me it's not a surprise. It is a bit of a somewhat of a disappointment though.
Little bit. I was hoping
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
on a few levels. One level because just as a fan, that those few days tends to be the Super Bowl for gaming geeks
Oh,
like
dude, it's
myself.
so good,
You
bro.
know,
Oh, so good.
you clear the schedule.
Oh, can't go to sleep the night before.
You forewarn the wife. I'm not here this weekend. Don't even look at me. I'm here. I'm not a. I'm a shadow of my former self. Don't even look at me. I'm not here, right? And you act like a complete like man buffoon. At least in my case, in front of a TV for a few days, watching all these
Oh,
great
dude.
great. That stuff for me. Clearly that won't be it won't be repeated in the way it has in the past
Yeah.
anytime soon. And to me, that is very disappointing. It really is. But I will say, I'm not surprised that E3 kind of bowed out. They didn't even choose to do a digital a digital conference this year because their digital conferences have been lackluster. So they really need to rethink. As far as will they have it next year? They claim to, but I think that's just blowing a bit of smoke. I think that the ship has sailed on that front because more often than not, specifically with the ESA, they need the money of these other companies to kind of fill the coffers to keep things going. Microsoft tends to be one of those companies that will back any tried and true horse, even if it's expensive. But Nintendo and a few others have already, and PlayStation for that matter, have already made the decision that yeah, the ESA costs too much. So even before the E3 was a thing of the past, they had already bowed out, right? So it was already a shell of its former self. I think I don't know who to give credit to who said it, but someone said, and I caught that the pandemic expedited something that was happening already anyway. It was slow downward
So
spiral
yes,
and
there
made
was
it
a
go
lot of
quickly.
people. I remember the pod. We did a bunch years ago, Fuzz. You remember? We
Mhm.
did a bunch of podcasts talking about E3 is it going
Yep.
away, and I was on the side that I'm a traditionalist when it comes to E3. Like you said, it's more of a it's all like you said, it's a Super Bowl for me as a gamer. So I feel like that tradition I
Yep.
don't want to go away. Right? It's not
Yep.
necessarily the event. I don't mind if the event changes forms. Right?
hmm
I don't want the tradition to go away. Right? So I think that's what held me.
So
But
my only thing about this, real quick, and I'll pass it on. The only thing that I hope that we learn from this, and I'm okay with Keeley continuing to carry the torch on that, but he would then hopefully need to be able to wrangle the various houses that used to be wrangled by the ESA to make it a concise, shorter event with a lot more information all at once. Because that 3 4 month thing that they've tried a couple of years is not it. It just doesn't work. and it makes people lose interest. And by the time the end of the year, the end of the summer has happened, even if you got a lot of great news, it's not something that's concisely regurgitated, right? You lost something in the thread. A bunch of mini shows ago, things get lost in the shuffle. If they can bring it closer together and make it a tighter show, as close to the E3, not format necessarily, but
Yeah.
timelines as possible, I think that would go a long way in
So,
in getting people excited again for that short amount of window where they can get all that data. You know what I mean?
and before somebody else jumps in here, I know Pong Fuzz jumping at the bits. Shout out to Fifth Horseman. He said, "For me, E3 is a time, not a place," and that's how I feel. It's like the old
Yep,
church saying, right? Church is not the church is the people, not the building, right?
that's
So
right. Yep.
essentially, kind of that old adage. But and once again, and we'll dive into this here a little bit more. I don't mind the event evolving. I do think they need to go back to the drawing board. It's a perfect opportunity. Why not? Why not? Right. So now I don't know. Like you said, the key thing here is that are you going to be able to draw these big fish back? Are you going to be able to reel
Well,
them back in at all? Right.
historically they've been very, very expensive, the ESA, right? And now these companies are able to do their own thing without that
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous ESA expense.
Yeah. And
That
they're
leads
used
me
to
to
it.
think That's right. That leads me to think we may not, unless the ESA, flips its business model and all of a sudden starts being a lot more cost effective. I doubt that they're pulling PlayStation back. I doubt that they're pulling Nintendo and the others back. Microsoft might be more approachable, but the rest, to have that full crazy E3 we used to, will require a lot of background changes, which I think they may not be ready for.
All right. All right. Anybody want to tackle this?
I'm kind of just saddened that E3 is possibly going away forever. As somebody that in the auto industry, I used to attend SEMA, which is like the same type of Super Bowl appearance but for just for the auto industry and the aftermarket stuff. I'm surprised they didn't find a way to monetize instead of you know hitting, I guess, a lot of the industry with these high fees and all that extra expense, monetize it through the public, kind of like what SEMA did. Although you do have a certain amount of time that's, strictly the press and strictly those in the industry type of thing for the first few days, and then make the last few days more of like the public appearance thing where, you charge a premium. I mean, yeah, it might be a little pricey on the consumer end of things, but that's for those that want to be in person, and there's going to be a good bit of people that are going to be willing to pay that price in comparison to not really having that many outlets to watch it on TV, or just having the one or two live events that they get to see on like YouTube and stuff like that, and can then catch the stuff later. But looking forward to the Summer Games Fest. I guess that'll be the interim replacement at this point in time. But I'm sad to see the gaming giant uh, you know convention pretty much go the way of the dodo, I guess. But that- that's how it works.
Yeah, for
And,
me, I'm sad. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Fuzz. Go ahead. Finish up.
no. You go ahead, bro.
No, I was just gonna say it's gamers Christmas, right? And it's like Kay Asante said, it's a time where you just know that everybody's gathering together in one spot. You get a bulk of the information all within a week's time. It's just a good, like everybody already said, it's a time, not it isn't the place. It is about the time, like the Fifth Horseman said. It's just that experience of knowing, even if you're not there and you're just watching it or you're reading the news, to know that there's millions across the world that are all doing the same thing in those moments with you because everybody knows about E3. That's what's lost to me. And you can say it was a shell of its former self, which again, I'm not going to argue with you. A lot of things have changed in a lot of different ways through the years that kind of caused that. But at the same time, it still meant something to us as gamers and to those of us, especially in this community, who are so passionate, that talk about the stuff, that read about it, that come to shows and chat, whatever the case, we're invested, right, with our hobby. And it was just a great time to know that everybody was kind of gathered together at the same time to get that information. So for me, that's what I'm going to miss the most out of it. I wish nothing but the best for Keely and his group. Again,
It was on my bucket list too.
Yeah, it was on my
Another
bucket
thing.
list too, eventually,
Yeah.
obviously. But I wish the best for Keely. Keely is a businessman through and through. Again, not going to talk about what you think about him personally. He knows what he's doing, and I think he has an opportunity. And like I've said previously, I think there is more opportunity with how big the gaming industry is for somebody else to also show up on the scene and do something else like it. I don't like the broken kind of shattered system that we have, like we had during the pandemic, where it was just willy nilly. Somebody would just randomly announce, by the way, we're going to show off some stuff today. That's stupid. I hate that stuff. I'd much rather have one basic central localized time frame where a majority, not everything. Again, we got the Game Awards, we got Summer's Games, just the majority of stuff shows up. And again, even that was kind of lacking in the recent years, and people pulled out like Sony. It wasn't the same without Sony being there. It wasn't the same originally when Nintendo pulled out as well. Those three big major players having press conferences was something just really cool, and it brought a different energy, but the energy was still there because everybody did show up to watch what was happening and to see the new announcements at that one time frame. And that's what made E3. So for me, it will be a loss at the end of the day if we never see another one again.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a weird thing, because shout out to Gabo in chat. He just asked, "Is it needed?" Needed is a that's tough, right? Like in reality, probably not. Like if I'm going to be 100% honest, is it needed? No, right? Like these companies are now capable and used to putting on their own events. Keeley is now stepping in. There's going to be something to kind of fill that slot. Is it needed? No, but is it wanted? Absolutely it is. But like you said, I think the biggest thing for us as video game fans, I'm saying us on a panel, is it the one combined uniform, you know what I mean? It's uniform, one combined event that we all can point to and circle on a calendar and say, this is where we're going to get all this stuff at, rather than it being spread out and random and all over the calendar. And one, announcements in June, we get something else at the end of August, and it's all weird.
So real quick, for those of us who had this as a bucket list, and I count myself among them as well, I do hear that PAX is working hard to replace E3 as a gathering place for those type of, really community focused events. And it seems like PAX has a better handle on the community as a whole, rather than what E3 did. And supposedly, even when E3 was still a thing and they did allow folks in, they didn't do it in the best of ways. So unless you really had business there, you were kind of left out in the cold a bit. You felt like you didn't get the full experience. So, there is still a chance for us, to potentially go to some of these events and potentially like get that E3 like experience. It may be more local. It may be a little less constrained, or you could, lose your mind and buy a ticket and go to Germany and go to Gamescom, and that's even bigger than E3.
Yeah.
There's still options out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely 100% true. Absolutely 100% true. So, unless anybody else wants to dive in on this, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up as of right now. So, anybody else want to dive in on this, or I think we're good.
I think we all covered it.
We're good. All right. Well, we're good. We're good. That's gonna wrap up the Shop Podcast episode 247. Man, almost 250. 3 shows away from 250. Amazing. Can't believe I'm saying that, but almost at 250. So that's a huge milestone. I'm thinking about doing something really special for that. We probably should, right? It's a good round number. So we'll probably do something kind of really fun for that. I don't know. I'll get creative here, and we'll figure something out. But once again, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us this week. You guys are awesome. Every single week you guys come out. The chat was amazing this week. We'll get to our guests here in a second. Once again, subscribe, like if you have not already. All of our information is down in the description below. Everybody on the panel here, including our guests, please go follow them, show them some support, like you guys do here every week on the Shop Podcast. But first and foremost, Mr. K. Asante, brother, you're one of my favorite people to have on here, bro. Like I'm for real. Like you're one of my favorite people to have on this show. Oh, you really? I mean, I'm being 100% authentic here. You really are. You really are one of my favorite people. The chat loves you. We always have a great show. Everything flows so well. So we appreciate you being on here. Shout out to Everborn. Cannot forget your other half, right? Not forget your other half.
Yeah, my slanderous half.
Shout out to Wifey as well, because I don't want the other half thing to be.
Don't misconstrue that.
Yeah, she's the whole, right? She's like the whole. She's not really a half, to be honest. But
indeed.
And just quickly here, shout out to Chris Jones for the $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. He said, so glad to see K. Asante on the other shoe. I had a blast with him on Noob Show a while back. Shop podcast, always fire. Appreciate you. And I'm sure Asante appreciates the support as well, man.
Indeed. We do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, but
No, yeah, this
go
is
ahead,
great.
bro.
I appreciate the invite, bro. It's always great to be allowed to come here and chat with you fine folks. Like I said, whether it be this weekend where I will either be listening in or during the week when I listen to Pong and Fuzzy and in all the various permutations of their shows that you will most likely hear about before the end of this show, they keep me going. So, to be able to communicate directly with you fine folks is always a pleasure for me. So thank you guys so much. And of course, PTK, it's always, it's such an honor to be invited on the show, and and a lot of the great community members you have also come and say hello on our shows in the chat. So it's always great to feel like you're part of this great growing community. So thank you once again for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, bro. And Master Jasper just wants to make sure you're aware. He said, "Love the new job, Kid Asante. Make Captain Keys proud."
Yeah, keep that going. Keep that going. If that equals me a free meal one day somewhere, I'll be very grateful. So y'all keep that going. Good job.
Yeah, they said
you just got to get the uniform. You just got to get the uniform. You're all set.
That's it.
I'm gonna have me a killer Halloween costume. Y'all got no idea.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Cosplay for days. And then Fifth Horseman says, so glad Paramount let Kay take time off the set to be here. So thank you, Paramount. Appreciate that. So
y'all are gonna be stunned, man. My 3-year-old is gonna be Master Chief. It's gonna be amazing. You have no idea.
Dude, it's gonna be awesome. Awesome. So once again, man, shout out, man. And once again, just one of my favorite people in general. You guys do me a favor. If you're a fan of the show, go check out Kay Asante. Follow him and all of his doings. Go check out the Gaming Circle podcast. They put on a phenomenal show. I believe earlier Saturday. What's the time on that?
10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Usually we're out for about. We're trying to tighten the reins a bit. 2.5 hours max, because me and Mr. Everborn Saga can go long. And we need to be able to catch the rest of Pong Soul and Living Split Screen. So we want to
get the second half concise, if you cut it down that far. We want to cut ours a little bit. Exactly. So that's usually my ritual. I finish the first 2 hours, and then I'm editing the show and watching Pong and Steel, go through the rest of the other 2 hours. So it's all good. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate the love, man. Once again, this podcast and stuff, I know it can be a bit sticky. Twitter gets sticky, right? Like, it's ugly, it gets muddy sometimes, but this is why we're all here, bro. Like, this is the fun part of what we do, and we appreciate you guys all supporting it, because we wouldn't be doing this at all if not for you guys as well. But Kay Asante, once again, A+, 5-star guy. Appreciate you, man. Much success and growth, energy, positive energy to you and you guys show over there at the Gaming Circle. Shout out to Everborn as well, man. But let's go ahead and go to my compadres here. Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, man. Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere. Been through a lot of changes lately, but appreciate you always here as well, man. The chat loves you. You always bring a different dynamic as well. But let everybody know what you got going on. I was gonna actually out you. I was gonna out you to chat, but I'm gonna leave you alone. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to right your wrongs. But go ahead, Fuzz.
All right. Well, first, I want to say thank you, Kay Asante, for joining us tonight. It's always great having you on here and hearing your takes on things. And always love being on here with you, PTK and Pong. You guys are awesome. My extended family and everybody in the chat, thank you so much for your time and coming out and joining us and interacting with us. I got to get on this video thing. I've been editing videos and making videos, just not releasing them.
Hey,
so
we gotta do something. He's
on
sitting
me.
on our archive over there, man. He got our Pong. We gotta do something. Like, I don't know what's going on.
But yeah, for those that want to hear my ramblings on racing games and things like that, follow me on Twitter at @fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on Breakfast with Boom on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And FSP might be moving to Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Mav. Key's going to take a little bit of a break for a little bit, and then we're going to get back into things hopefully on 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays. And then you can always find me here again on the Shop Podcast with my brothers at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. But man, it was awesome being here. Thank you guys so much. Man, I love this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Mr. Pong. So the battery pack of the Shop Podcast, bro.
Yeah, another fantastic episode tonight. PTK and Fuzzy, thank you, brothers, as always, for a wonderful, wonderful Saturday night. And chat, always, you guys are here, just livening up the show, giving us entertainment. I was disappointed, however, I got no hot takes from Other Zinc because he was busy. So my night's not complete. I gotta go to bed knowing that Other Zinc did not give
Yeah,
me a
you
hot
didn't
take
argue
tonight.
with him at all today. What the hell is
Correct.
going on?
I know, and he even had an opportunity when I was going to talk about Keeley to jump in with his usual Keeley hot takes.
Get good.
Yeah,
Your
that's
takes
right.
aren't hot enough, Pong. You gotta do better.
No, he said he was busy and he had to just jump out early.
Hey! I will say this show did benefit. I'm now waiting to see the Genghis Pong memes that will float through the internet. I'm looking. I want horns, the whole deal. Come on now,
I've been
Genghis
promoting
Pong.
it. I've been promoting it. I know, I love Genghis Pong. But Kay Asante, fantastic to have you, brother. You know how much I love you and appreciate your takes and what you do in this community. And you and Everborn run a great show. Unfortunately, I can't catch it because doing my own thing as well with Steel, but just appreciate every time to be on a show with you, man. So thank you for coming through despite your busy life as well. So thank you for being here. But look, you know the drill. Pong Soul on Xbox, on Twitter. Follow me. I will follow you back. I am a busy, busy man. Work is ramping up more and more and more. I'm not in Twitter, the Twitter sphere as much as I'd like to be, but that's life. I got to pay the bills first, but I will interact with you. You DM me. I'll get back to you. Maybe not on the spot, but I will get back to you. But love this community. So follow me and I will hit you back for sure. Otherwise, you can find me Tuesday on Xbox Factor Podcast with Mr. Boomstick. I will be back this week. Mav will be there as always if he can be, along with Boxenberger, Mr. Joanna Dark, VJ, and of course, Boom himself. We're going to talk all good things green, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. Be over there. Double Barrel Gaming is a channel if you don't already know, which would be crazy being in this community if you don't know about Mr. Boomstick. So be there Thursday, PM in the PM. I will be back this week as well. Mav and I had to call it this week. This week it was on me. Again, work being work. So, but we should be back this week, God willing, Thursday nights over on Fun Speculations channel, 2-man show. He and I deep diving 1, 2, maybe 3 topics. We usually go about 2.5 hours on Thursday night. It's a great time. Mav and I can talk as well. So please join us. PM in the PM, Fun Speculations channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Back on Fun Speculations channel for Friday night Xbox Ultimate. You know the drill there. Great 8 or however many of us can show up. We had Mr. Joanna Dark and Xbox Obi, 2 awesome members of this community on last Friday. It was a great time. So please join us. We always have fun there, laughing. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time, Xbox Ultimate Fun Speculations channel. Then Saturday mornings, yes, we are in competition with Chaos Hunting and Everborn. No, not really. We both have great shows going on Saturday morning. So skip between us, or like Asante said, do what he do. Take in Asante and Everborn. Come over for another 2-hour show because we're only at halftime after 2 hours over there. Living split screen Saturday mornings. Myself, my brother from another Steel Rain. We did 4.5 hours today. Please drop in, see us. If you got to drop out, come back. Whatever the case may be, we don't care how you listen to us or how long you listen to us. We're just going to bring the energy on Saturday mornings. Living split screen, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. Split screen is all one word. We're trying to get to Mission 1K this year. So please drop in, tell a friend, and join us there. Otherwise, I'll be back here next Saturday night, of course, on the Shop Podcast, episode 51, or 251, I should say, or 248, excuse me, 248. Steel and I just did episode 50 today. That's in PTK was talking about 250. But I will be back here next week. Otherwise, it's Golden Age Gaming, people. Get out there and enjoy every piece of content coming out, or as many as you want to. Just do it. Play what you love what you play. Let no one steal your hype for what's going on in this industry and your excitement, your joy for whatever game you're playing. And I'll talk to y'all real soon. Love you. Nothing but respect for everybody.
Appreciate you, man. And last but not least, your boy PTK Blam across the board. Hit me up here on Twitter as well. You know, that's where you're going to be able to find out what's going on with the Shop Podcast every week, where the guests at, the poll of the week, all of that stuff is on my Twitter. Everybody here today's information is down in the description below, so please find it there. Go follow us. That's where you're going to be able to keep up with all of us on our various different shows and podcasts. But once again, same place, same time next week. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully have a new guest on next week, or just a guest in general. If not, we'll rock out. But we'll holler at you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Peace out, everybody.
Later.